This is the House of Medici, hosted by Crypto de Medici. In this volume, I will be talking about cryptocurrencies, discussing the market, investments, trading philosophy, self improvement, and much more. Chapter 1, Starting Crypto. I am in my 20s. I recently graduated out of college, and I am currently managing my own fund called Medici Crypto. I got into cryptocurrencies my sophomore year in college. I initially got interested because the price of Bitcoin went from a few dollars all the way up to $1,000 in 2013. And I heard about Bitcoin in the beginning of 2014 as it was going down. I stumbled upon it doing some research online and heard about this digital asset. So I looked into it and I did very little research, but I saw that the supply of this asset was only 21 million Bitcoin that would ever exist. And from there, I knew that Bitcoin was going to be huge because of the scarcity and the fact that there would only be 21 million. There's very little to no inflation rate in the sense of it being mandated by the government or some individuals or some organization, but it was all just a decentralized asset that no one had complete control over that was scarce. And that was just huge. I knew that it was going to be big, so I ended up buying at the $600 to $500 level as it was going downwards. Bought very little because I didn't have much money, but I knew that I had to get into it. And the best way to get into it is just putting some money and letting it go. And also naturally your curiosity and focus on something increases when you have money on the line. So I put money in there, forgot about it for a few months and got interested again because either I stumbled upon another article or something just brought me back to cryptocurrencies. And so a few months later, I really got into it, started doing research. Well, initially, actually, I focused on day trading, which was really, it only lasted a week because I was so bad at it. But back then, because we were in the middle of a full on bear run, the volumes were very low, very small percentage movements that were happening. So I tried it for probably a day, really. Well, in the beginning, I tried to do some learning of technical analysis and figure out the indicators and how you read a graph and all of that. And in the beginning, I was very motivated to do it, and I did it for a few hours, and then I tried my luck in the market, but it didn't work out. I was looking more at the longer term because I knew that crypto was going to be around, and I knew that I could make money from this market. And so I was just figuring out the best, most efficient way to make money off the market. And what I came to the conclusion was that because I knew that this was going to be such a huge market, I knew that big money and the big players are going to end up moving in, whether it was in a few months, a few years, or decades, but they're eventually going to move in. And what this means is that you lose your advantage if you're doing something like technical analysis or playing the short game, essentially, unless you're at the top of your game. And I knew that I wasn't going to be at the top of the game because my skills weren't there. I wasn't willing to put in the hours, and that just naturally wasn't what I enjoyed. I didn't like the stress of day trading, of losing money, risking money, not knowing if it was going to go up or down. I like more of the certainty, and the day trading just wasn't going to work out. So I figured out early on that if I wanted to play with the big boys, day trading was not going to be the way to do it, and neither was technical analysis. So I rapidly shifted my focusing on the research and finding the assets that I think would appreciate as the bull run was going to happen. So that's really what I focused on was the long term game. And luckily, I learned that pretty quickly because that is actually what I was naturally strong at, and my skills were gravitating towards the long game. Another thing is why did I choose crypto and why am I still in crypto? The main reason really, and the reason that Bitcoin captivated me so much was because it was a decentralized currency that you could send money from one place to another without any barriers, without any governments intervening. And that just was and is continues to be a beautiful idea and a beautiful way of thinking and way of belief, because it kind of goes with the whole globalization idea, where you can transfer money from one place to another, and that allows that money to be used in a more efficient manner instead of being locked up in a specific country or in specific companies because you can't get it out. Now you have access and control over your money. And if you want to invest or move your money to some other country, or you wanted to move to some other individual or entity, you're able to do that instantaneously and with very little cost. And this is going to change, and it's already changing the way that humans operate. And that's really what keeps me going, and what I love about cryptocurrencies is that I know where it's heading. And it's something like the internet, where they can try to censor us, they can try to, shut us down and control us and use this technology against us. But at the end of the day, it's just giving the individual a lot more power. And once the individual has more power, they're able to do a lot more good to it. Obviously, individuals can also do a lot of bad, but I'm very optimistic and very hopeful that we're moving in the right direction, and that we're gonna have the and that the individual, because they're getting more power, they're gonna be end up becoming more responsible, because the risk of being irresponsible are too great to allow it to happen. And that's really why I'm into crypto. Secondly, obviously, is the money part. Uh, the money, well, it's the money and the professional aspect. The money, because you can make a ton of money in cryptocurrencies because it's such a new market, and so many people are, one, not educated on the market. So it's easy to find assets that are undervalued and that are going to appreciate, because most people just don't do any research, and they don't see the market, or they're not very experienced in the market. So it makes it easy for someone to do well financially. But also professionally, it's great because it's such a new market that anyone that has a few years of experience can really move up the ladder of professional development when it comes to, trading, consulting, investing. I mean, all aspects of cryptocurrencies is wide open for you to explore and follow. And that's why cryptocurrencies are so exciting, and why you see so many young individuals, because it's I mean, right now, the way that I see it, it's one of the best places to really grow professionally and mentally, in a way that you want, because the industry is moving so quickly, and so you have to adapt, because if you're not moving up and you're not growing professionally and personally, you're gonna get left behind. And that's also why I love crypto so much. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what what a beginner would do. So if I was just starting cryptocurrencies once again, what I would tell myself and what I would advise myself to do. And the first thing that I would do is I would tell myself, and this is all what I would tell myself, of course. I would focus on learning about Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would learn as much as I can about Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would read the white paper many times over. I would figure out the history of it, the history of Bitcoin, how it came about, the influential people behind Bitcoin, the early stages, the middle stages, the drama in between all those stages, because Bitcoin has a long history, even though it's fairly new. And if you understand the history, you're able to understand why Bitcoin got to where it is right now, and also the problems that they're going to have down the line, or the successes that they've had, the successes that they're going to have down the line. And so it's very important to understand the history of it and how it got to where it is now. Also, yeah, understanding the notable names, the people, the big people behind it, the outspoken people, the influential people, the people behind the scenes. If you're able to understand and find the characters within Bitcoin, you're able to understand where Bitcoin is going to have troubles, where they're going to have areas of debate. So let's say something like Jihan with Bitmain, which is the one of the largest, if not the largest, mining manufacturers and mining pools. if you understand that he is a big proponent of Bitcoin Cash and he has a huge, overwhelming majority of mining capacity with Bitcoin, you're able to piece out what's going to happen in a year or two from now if Bitcoin is going to, change their mining algorithm, or if there's something in the roadmap that might find a roadblock. And that's kind of what happened with something like Segwit. And that's primarily why I was such a big proponent in Litecoin, because I knew that the mess with Segwit in Bitcoin was going to affect it, and Litecoin was going to be able to implement Segwit a lot faster, which would allow Litecoin to appreciate significantly more in the short run compared to Bitcoin. And so that's where understanding the notable names and the people behind these huge companies is so important, and also figuring out what they believe and how they believe it and why they believe it, so that you understand how these companies are going to react, because all these companies behind them are all individuals that have the same similar belief systems that we have. They get emotional, they get angry, they get happy, they get upset. And so you have to understand the relationship that they all have within the community, because they have so much power and so much influence with the community. And then from there, you're able to figure out how the market is going to react based on these tensions and relationships between the individuals. And that same goes with Ethereum. And the reason that I recommend going really in depth with Bitcoin and Ethereum is that because those two are the most successful projects that have come out of crypto. Obviously, Bitcoin is the most successful because it's the first, and it has so much dominance over the market. And Ethereum is second because it came up from an ICO, raised money, and just became a huge behemoth. And now they have a massive, massive ecosystem, which needs to be studied and understood, because if Ethereum does continue to appreciate in value and provide the development and the technological know-how that is going to allow it to continue to be successful, it's important to know and figure out if it is going to continue to be successful. And also it's important to know and figure out if it's going to essentially understand how it got to where it is, because there's going to be a lot of other platforms and assets that are going to do something similar to what Ethereum has done. And so if you understand the rise to power of something like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're able to kind of piece together which assets you think are going to do well if they start following, or it seems like they're following the way of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But again, you also don't want to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum as the models of what to do in order to grow as an ecosystem and as a cryptocurrency, because the market is so new, and the market is rapidly changing, that what worked a few years ago or last year, it's most likely not going to work next year or in 2 years. But it's always good to have that in the back of your head. And also, if you're investing in similar assets, it's good to know what the big guys are doing, and that's Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the first thing I would do is know everything about these two projects, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then the next thing is, after you have a really solid understanding of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which obviously you're not going to have even years from now because there's so much happening in both projects, you have a very solid understanding of the players, of who's doing what, the price, the reason it went up, why it's doing what it's doing now. Then you start moving towards other projects that you find interesting. And so these projects, what I would do is you start going down through CoinMarketCap. So you start going down the list of all these assets, and you click on them and start reading about them. So what I would do is you click on projects that you might find interesting, and then you read about what is the essence of it. So the about page, and you figure out, okay, this asset is trying to do, let's say, decentralized lending. And if that interests you, then you write it down and you say decentralized lending, and then you keep going down the list of assets, and then the ones that interest you naturally just pique your curiosity. Then you write them down, and you write obviously why it's interesting to you. And then now let's say you have a list of 5 or 10 assets. So then you start going down the list and focusing on which ones really interest you. and you read some more about it, the website. And then if you, after reading the website and maybe reading the white paper, you figure out, wow, this is a really interesting asset, then you go even deeper and you do your good fundamental analysis on the asset. So that's what you move towards after understanding Bitcoin and Ethereum is you find assets that you really find interesting, and then you read up more on them. If they are really, really interesting to you, then you go deep, dive deep and really figure out what's going on, who's behind it, where you think it's going, how it's done in the past. And throughout all of this, right from when you start Bitcoin and just life in general, what you need to be focusing on is not only just digesting all of this information, but also you're constantly coming up with questions that you have. So maybe you saw a video or you're reading the white paper and you have a question on what this specific technology is about, or who's the individual that wrote the white paper, who's the individual behind a specific project. There's always going to be questions that arise. You have to write these questions down because these questions are the ones that lead you down another path that might find you an opportunity that you didn't know before. So something like Bitcoin, when you're reading about the mining, and then you read about, oh, Bitmain builds all these miners. That should be a question right there. What is Bitmain? Who's Bitmain? What are they? What are they? How many miners are they producing a year? How much revenue are they making? Because these are the questions that then inform you of the size of something like Bitmain, where you know that if they're making billions of dollars a year in revenue, they're able to spend hundreds of millions in many of these projects, and they have a huge vested interest in their mining capacity. And so as you're digesting all of this information, you're constantly writing questions on a piece of paper so that you can go back and then start finding the answers to those questions. And once you're able to answer those questions, you have a much broader base of knowledge and understanding that you normally wouldn't had you not written that down. So that's the first part of what I would recommend my beginner self, and that's really the research and just understanding the market itself. And the next thing is the social media aspect. And this is where you start interacting with individuals in the crypto sphere online. And what I would recommend myself is to start following people on Twitter. So I would immediately join Twitter, and I would start following the most interesting people that I have found through my research and my reading. The people behind Ethereum, the people behind Bitcoin, the developers, the influential individuals that you found, and just start following them. Maybe reading what they've said in the past, what they're saying now, and observing the investors and traders in crypto Twitter, understanding how that whole ecosystem works, the assets that they're talking about, the assets that they're not talking about, just getting a good overall sense of the community and what's going on there. And so as you're following people on social media, you start to build a list of following that is providing you value. And then because you're digesting all of this information and answering all these questions that you have, you start providing value yourself. And so what you're doing is, so let's say you're doing research on all of these privacy cryptocurrencies. You don't want to just hoard that research, because although it's giving you insights onto what you're doing, you get more value out of showing it to the community and showing the community that you can provide value as well. So you're already doing research. Let's say you did research on Monero and you really like Monero because X, Y, and Z. So what you're going to do is you do a small write-up, a really quick write-up. So you do a summary of what is Monero, why it's different from other anonymous cryptocurrencies, and why you like it, and where you see it going. So what you're doing is you're helping your community, the community around you, and if you have followers, or even just if you share it to someone that is influential within the community, they see that you put in the effort and that you put in the work. And also it's content that then people that are looking at you are going to be able to read and figure out, oh, this guy, a few months ago said that Monero was going to be a great project, or is a great project, and it's going to be the strongest anonymous cryptocurrency. It just went up 200, 300%. This kid knows what he's talking about, or what she's talking about. So you're able to start producing valuable content. Now, it doesn't have to be obviously a blog post, doesn't have to be a Medium article, it doesn't have to be very long, but it's providing a different perspective that you're getting because of the research that you're doing. And that's why the research is so important, is because you're getting better perspectives and different ideas and different insights. And all that insight and all those ideas, you're providing that value to the community. And then as you're providing that value to the community, you start having people follow you. You start collaborating with people, asking questions, commenting on specific issues that are happening in the community or in the industry. And so now you start to take a more proactive approach to being involved within that community, which then gives you uh, better relationships with individuals. You're able to communicate with them. They're more open to you because they see that you're providing value. And and that's all very important. And that's also where we focus too much on the trading and the investing side, the money side. And while that's all great, there's a lot of people that are not good with the trading or the investing. And that's why it's very important to, one, not only understand the market itself, because you can understand the market and you don't have to be trading or investing. It's just that you have a very good understanding of the market. And that in itself is extremely valuable. So you have a good understanding of the market and you're building a very strong following because you have a lot of good research and you have a lot of good insights and analysis of different assets. Now what you're doing is you're finding opportunities that will align with your skills and your strengths. And so you know that you are, let's say, very good at writing and you're doing a lot of research. So you're not going to be spending most of your time doing trading or investing because that's not your forte. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing a lot of writing. And so then you start writing and producing a lot of good content. You start working with specific companies or specific websites, such as something like tokens24.com, and you start providing value. You start providing insights, and then you build those relationships with individuals within those organizations. Now your name is out there, and they start publishing your articles, and you start to build a name for yourself. And the next thing you know, you're one of the biggest writers in crypto. And so I think that's where having a good understanding of the market is very important. The understanding of the assets is very important. And then also having a social media following is very important because you want to be known for providing value. Now, what that value is, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's coming from you and that it's a natural strength that you have. So if you're a natural writer and you're not good at trading or investing, obviously you could start learning and you should learn about it, but that shouldn't be your focus because your focus and you're passionate about writing, that should be your focus. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people have in really in any market, but in cryptocurrencies that I've seen is that people focus too much on the trading and investing side and they forget about the many opportunities that there are available to individuals in crypto. Lastly, the last part that I would recommend my beginner self is to start meeting people. And one of the ways that you could do that is obviously through social media. You can start interacting with individuals, find where they're located, hit them up, see if you could have dinner with them, take them out for coffee or something like that, and then you start learning about them, building a better relationship with them, because it's one thing to meet individuals and interact with them online, and it's another thing to actually meet them in person and really share an experience, and that's where you really build strong relationships in crypto is outside and meeting these people. And so what I would tell myself is meet as many people as you can, and that's where you would exploit something like social media massively to do that. Another thing would be with meeting people, you would do you start meeting all these interesting people, and they all have different needs. Someone might need research, another person might need some connections, and so you start finding the problems that all these individuals have and the needs that they have, and then you start strategizing what individuals you have to find or what strengths you have that you can provide to them to help them out. So if an individual is in need of research or writing, and that's what you're strong at, then you start providing that research and that writing. And what I would do is you ignore the money part. You focus on just providing what they need and giving them as much value as possible so that they see that you're interested in helping them out. And they appreciate it a lot more, and they're willing to help you out as well because they know that you're not in it for the money. You're in it to help them. And so you're learning and you're getting more experience because you're writing more, you're doing more research, and you're providing this research to them. And they're very appreciative because they're not having to pay. And so they're going to help you out in whatever you need. So if you're looking to join a fund or you're looking to start a group, then they might be able to help you. Now, if they don't help you or not, that's actually not it doesn't matter because that's not what your focus should be. Your focus should be on helping an individual that comes to you that you can help them out. Obviously, you don't want to be giving your time to everyone, and you don't want to be the person volunteering to every single event, but you want to be able to give the information out, give the value out, and don't expect anything in return. Because the worst thing that a person can do is give something to someone and then have that nagging feeling where you're just waiting for them to give you something back, and that person knows it too. And what happens is that person that knows that you're waiting to get something from them is never gonna they're not gonna want to have a relationship with you because they know that you're that type of person that does something to them and that they have to give something in return. The best thing is someone that gives and gives and gives and doesn't ask for anything in return because you are just happy with providing value and you yourself are building that value by providing the value. So don't, obviously don't, everyone needs money, and that's why I recommend people keep their day jobs or maybe join a cryptocurrency company. I mean, I don't know people's life, but yeah, I would recommend, if you have a day job, you stay in your day job and just any hours that you have free, you're just using it to do research, you're using it to meet these people in person, you're using it to help them out because if you really love crypto, you want to get out of that job as soon as possible and dive deep into crypto. And so if you're providing all of this value, someone's just going to look at you and be like, we need you. And they're going to say, we need you because they know that you're providing value. And one of the ways that you're providing value is obviously through the individual relationships that you have, but another way is through social media because you can reach thousands and thousands of people all around the world just by your words. And so if you're providing value, you have all these people that are listening and following you and reading you. Then they start saying, wow, this person knows what they're talking about, or this person is good at this or that, or I just want to meet this person. And then that's where the connections happen. That's where the deals are made. That's where you start figuring out what they need. You help them out. They help you out. And just the whole community begins to collaborate. So you're going to all these meetups, you're meeting people in person, and you're providing them the value. You're not looking for money. You're looking just to provide value and build relationships that are going to last for many years. And so the way that I close this off when it comes to the individual and providing value is that at first nobody knows you. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what you do. The way that people know about you is your resume. And nowadays, in the past, it used to be you had a resume paper, where you went to high school, college, grades, internships, all that shit. But now it's different. What your resume is now is the value that you can provide. And the only way that they're going to know that you can provide value is one, by your experiences, and two, is by the value that you're providing. And that's why something like social media is so important, is because you're going to be able to build a name for yourself with your writing or talking, whatever it is, you're providing some sort of value. And individuals are going to see that and they're going to come to you and they're going to want to work with you because you're providing that value. So remember, nobody knows you. Your resume is your value. So show it. Show your value. Just to end everything off, I recommend people ignore the money, focus on building value, and then providing that value. And as you're providing that value, you expand your reach and you build your network. So remember, ignore the money, focus on building value, provide that value, expand your reach, and build your network.